As a part of the Apocrypha project in Oslo, I am working on the relationship between Coptic Apocrypha and Coptic magical texts. And as I mostly work with manuscripts, the questions of dating and provenience are very important, but also often problematic. So Coptic manuscripts are rarely associated with an archaeological context, and the vast majority are not dated in an absolute way. Literary manuscripts starts bearing dates only from the 9th century onwards, with the practice of adding a colophon, and even then, only a small proportion of the manuscripts have dated colophons. So to date these manuscripts, we are mostly relying on paleography. Unfortunately, Coptic paleography is far from being as advanced as, for example, Greek paleography. And previous attempts at large studies of the Coptic material have proven unsuccessful, partly because of the lack of a systematic terminology, the inaccessibility of manuscripts, preconceptions, and assumptions. There has been some progress in the last decades, for example, with an emphasis on the use of material and paratextual features to help with dates and provenience, and also the growing number of databases and digital tools at our disposal. So today I will discuss briefly two databases I have been using for my work and review how both close and distant readings of the material, as well as the use of tools such as social network analysis, have helped me to address questions of dating and provenience. And I will start with the Apocrypha database. So with the project, we are building a relational database that contains all manuscripts bearing Coptic textual versions of apocryphal works. The database contains metadata on the works, texts, and manuscripts, including material aspects, paratextual features, dates, provenience, bibliographical data, and information on available images. And then we also have content data. So for each text, we are tagging content elements such as names of characters, places, practices, and events. Then all of this data is first entered into spreadsheets, which are converted into a Postgres SQL database that can be queried using the pgadmin tool. And since we've been entering a lot of data, now in the last year, we have started analyzing it from simple statistical analysis to more complex social network and content analyses. And through these, the database is helping us to deal with dates and provenience. So just some graphs and statistics to start. As of now, the database contains 388 manuscripts with 612 Coptic textual versions in different dialects of 263 different apocryphal works. Out of these 388 manuscripts, only a very small proportion is securely dated, for example, by colophons. And here you have an overview of the date ranges of our manuscripts, with the blue X representing the lowest possible dates and the red the highest possible dates. And you can see that from the 9th century onwards, so about here, there are a few manuscripts where the two X's overlap. And these are the 34 manuscripts with a dated colophon, which represent actually not even 10% of the corpus. Then you have an overview of the most frequent places of production, use, and discovery for the corpus. You can see that every time unknown location is the second most frequent, and the other ones are most frequent are monasteries, such as the White Monastery and the Monastery of the Archangel Michael at Fantau. And of all of the manuscripts, 87 have a secure provenience based on the archaeological context of discovery or use, and another 31 have a secure production or use location based on colophons, for a total of 118 manuscripts. Now, to assign dates and provenience to other manuscripts in the database, we relied partly on the works of other previous scholars and also the research of some of the team members who, for example, have reconstructed the collections from the great monasteries using paleographical and codicological analysis. And for these, we have established date ranges based on securely dated manuscripts plus or minus 50 years. And then other methods have been used to help with dating and provenience, such as the analysis of paratextual features, to which I will come back a bit later, and also computer analysis of quantitative and qualitative data. For example, Samuel Peter Cook, former postdoctoral fellow with the project, is working on a corpus of manuscript from the monastery of Saint Macarius, and he used social network analysis to see if he could narrow the date ranges for some of the manuscripts. So Sam built a case study by selecting a subgroup of 4 manuscripts with colophons that mention one specific individual, a monk called Mena of the Great Cell. Of those 4 manuscripts, 2 are securely dated in the colophons, and 3 have identified scribes, Cael Piscelius, Macarius, and Cael, son of Matoi. And in addition to the scribes, many other individuals are mentioned in the colophon. So what Sam did was to tag all of these people and use the data in the colophon to reconstruct the social network of Mena of the Great Cell. Now, for social network analysis, you need first to build tables with your nodes and edges. The nodes are usually the social actors, and the edges are the relationships between these nodes. Then you convert your tables into CSV files, so comma separated value files, which can be used to create graphs and models to visualize your data. And for this, we, with the project, are using Gephi, which is an open source software for network analysis. And here is what Mena's network looks like. So what you have here is the nodes in purple are the people, and the orange nodes are the manuscripts. And then the edges are the relationship between the people and the manuscripts, and they are colored according to the reasons why they are mentioned in the colophon. So Mena is our central node, and he is mentioned in 4 different manuscripts. He is in CLM 163, mentioned in a dating formula, in 153 and 159, 59 in memorial notes, and in 153 and 1862, he is mentioned as the spiritual father of the monks who donated the manuscripts to the monastery. And then we have other relationships linking the manuscripts. For example, you have 2 manuscripts, 1862 and 159, which were donated by the same people. And there's also Macarius I, the scribe of CLM 163, who can be identified as the reader and the author of the donation notes of another of the manuscripts. Furthermore, each of these 3 scribes that are identified in these manuscripts are also the author of other manuscripts in the Macarius corpus, which could then eventually also be added to this network. And you have an example here with CLM 105, which perhaps mentions Mena, but this is unclear because we are lacking the epithet of the Great Cell. But this manuscript was copied by Cael, son of Matoi, and also mentions Sarapion in a memorial note. So it is very much connected to this network. Now, based on the social network analysis of this very small sample of manuscripts, Sam was able to narrow the dates of 3 of the manuscripts. And these new dates, which you can see here, are not only based on the analysis of social networks, but also on whatever we know about monastic and scribal careers, which for now is unfortunately not much. But it is our hope that by performing more of these social network analysis with all of our manuscripts containing Coptic Apocrypha, we will be able to know more about these peoples and their networks and their careers, which will ultimately help us to date more manuscripts more precisely. So this was just a few examples of what we've been doing with the Apocrypha project. Now I will move to my own research within the project, working on the relationship between Coptic Apocrypha and Coptic magical texts. In particular, with regards to similar content and themes, practices, material and paratextual features of the manuscripts, and also their context of production and use. So to identify the Coptic magical text relevant to my research, I used the Kyprianos database of ancient ritual texts created by the project Coptic Magical Papyri led by Korshi Dosu. Kyprianos is also a relational database, which includes all known manuscripts bearing Coptic magical texts, amounting to 600 as of last month. Unfortunately, for Coptic magical manuscripts, the issues of dates and provenience are often even more problematic because only few manuscripts come from controlled excavations. Almost none of them contain information about dates and place of production, and most of them are written in very informal hands that can rarely be dated through paleography. However, I argue that adopting an approach based on material philology and looking at the material and paratextual features of the magical manuscripts can help us with dating and, most importantly for me, provenience. So my basic assumption was that many manuscripts with Coptic Apocrypha and magical texts were actually produced in similar contexts, for example, monastic contexts. And since we did include the material and paratextual features for manuscripts and text in the Apocrypha database, and we have images of almost all of our manuscripts, I decided to compare these features in manuscripts with magical and apocryphal texts to see what I would find out. So I will only mention a few examples here. The best case study is probably the magical formulary Leiden Anastasy 9, because everything here points to a monastic or monastic related context. So the hand is closer to literary hands than those for most magical manuscripts. The scribe use punctuation. So paragraphoi, there's letters in ectasis, we have pagination, decorated titles, and there's even a very beautiful decorated leather cover. So all of these features are very rare in Coptic magical manuscripts, but frequent in manuscripts with Coptic Apocrypha and other literary works. So this suggests that the codex probably belonged to a monastic or perhaps an ecclesiastic library. And in fact, even the contents suggested. So for example, the first text is the Prayer of Gregory, which has a parallel in Byzantine liturgical codices, and the Apgar correspondence, although it was mostly used for magical purposes, is also found in other Coptic literary manuscripts from monastic contexts. In fact, looking at the Coptic manuscripts with the Apgar correspondence is another good place to start. So from the 23 Coptic textual attestations of the correspondence, 6 are from known monastic contexts, 2 codices, 3 amulets, and 1 wall inscription. And to that, I also add the Codex Leiden Anastasy 9 with a very much suspected monastic provenience. But then when we look at amulets without known provenience, one is very interesting. And I'm trying to show it. Okay. There you go. So this is the only Coptic amulet that contains the letter of Apgar to Jesus, which is written with a beautiful literary hand. And as you can see from these two images, at the very end, after the end of the letter, we have a decoration separating the main text from what follows, some unreadable words, and then te epistole, the letter. So actually, this looks very much like...
Sorry
Yes?
to interrupt. We still see your slide with the Abgar correspondence in Coptic. Is it what you want to show us?
No. I think that there was a problem because it froze and now it changed for me, but I'm guessing not for you. I will stop sharing and try again.
Yep. Thank you.
Do you see this?
Yeah.
Yes.
Now okay.
It's working.
It's the correct one.
Okay, thank you. Sorry about that.
No problem.
So yes, the images that you see here, this one is the amulet I was talking about. And at the very end, at the bottom of the papyrus sheet, you have decorations after the separating the main text from what follows. And then there's a few unreadable words and te epistole, which is the letter. So when you look at it, it actually looks very much like closing titles, which are almost unknown in the Coptic magical manuscripts, but frequent in manuscripts with literary works like Apocrypha. And actually, we have closing title and both an initial and a closing title in the manuscript Leiden Anastasi 9, which I was talking about earlier, and you see them here. So this is a very specific feature that doesn't appear in much magical manuscripts, but are frequent in other kind of literary manuscripts. Okay, so these were just a few examples, but I do now have several manuscripts with one or more material and pretextual features of interest, including titles, both initial and closing titles, colophons, punctuation, pagination, pricking and ruling, decorations, drawings, and also the reuse of manuscripts with literary texts. So the study of these paratextual features and their comparison with similar features in literary manuscripts from known monastic provenience, I believe, confirms my impression that many more magical manuscripts than originally suspected come from monastic or monastic-related contexts. Okay, now before I conclude, I would like to briefly address the content analysis. So one of the purposes of including content data in the Apocrypha database is to look at the transmission and circulation of ideas through time and space with content analysis. So this is very much still work in progress, but I wanted to see if perhaps content network analysis could help me assign dates and provenience to manuscripts by tracing the development of certain traditions and ideas. As a case study, I used the 4 bodiless creatures, which are important characters in apocryphal works and magical texts. And using the Apocrypha and the Kyprianos databases, I found all relevant manuscripts that mention or invoke the 4 creatures. And just like with social network analysis, I created tables with nodes and edges. And as my nodes, I have all of the different textual attestations and the different ways the 4 creatures are referred to, including different lists of names, descriptions of their bodies, and in the edge tables, I have the assigned dates for the manuscripts. Then I imported these tables as CSV files into Gephi, and this is what I got. Unfortunately, I cannot go through all of this in details here, but very quickly. So the gray nodes are how the 4 creatures are referred to. Then the other colored nodes are the different types of textual attestations. So purple for magic, green for apocrypha, red for liturgical manuscripts. The blue ones are paintings with legends, with the names of the four creatures, and orange is for other inscriptions. And then the edges are colored according to the assigned dates of the manuscripts, and they have labels when the dating is secured based on criteria such as colophon, scribal overlap, dialects, or archaeological context. So very quickly, you can already see that there's clusters. Very few manuscripts will mention the four creatures in different ways. And some of these clusters are interesting. For example, here you have the Paramera list. This is one of the lists of names for the four creatures, and this list appears only in magical manuscripts and in paintings and other inscriptions from Nubia. And all of them are securely dated to after the 9th century, except one magical manuscript here with the green edge, which is assigned to the 6th to 8th centuries, but without any secure criteria. Now, can I do something with it? Maybe. And there's still a lot of things to look at. I'm not done analyzing the data, but I'm hoping that this kind of content network analysis might also help with dating and eventually also provenience. So to conclude, as I said earlier, dealing with dates and provenience for Coptic manuscripts is sometimes very difficult because we lack a good quality, large-scale paleographical study of the Coptic material. So in the moment, paleography is most useful when we have securely dated manuscripts to work with, which is unfortunately not always the case. However, if we use paleography in conjunction with other methods, then we have interesting results. So among these other methods, I've mentioned the detailed analysis of material and paratextual features of the manuscripts, not only the dimensions, formats, and layouts of the text, but also decorations, punctuation, pagination, and all of the paratexts, such as titles, reader's notes, and colophons. These are part of the aesthetic and composition of the manuscript, and they can actually tell us about a lot about their context of production and use. Therefore, I think it's really important that these features should be included in new editions and in new databases to facilitate analysis. And second, while the use of these databases and digital tools and methods for analyzing quantitative and qualitative data, be it metadata or content data. And for example, with the Apocrypha project, with our database, we are using social network analysis and content analysis. But there are probably many other possibilities, as the other papers today and tomorrow will no doubt show. Thank you.